everybody. I'm Bronwyn Knox, and I'm here with David B. Anderson, David Lawler, and John Froelich.
No. It's not John Froelich. It's Gert B. Fröbe.
I'm sorry.
It's
Gert B.
Fröbe.
Because if you say my name wrong again, I'm gonna stab you in the face. Soldering iron.
Shouldn't it be Froelich then, with the two dots on the top?
No, man. It's Gert B. Fröbe. But in all seriousness,
Okay.
I had to do my little Joe Dirt joke because of Gert B. Fröbe.
Whoever you are, tonight we're discussing Goldfinger, the 1964 James Bond film. And it looks like Dave wants to read something out to us. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah. The just this one, my little contribution here for this episode. This is from the Guide for the Film Fanatic by Danny Peary, published in 1986. And he had reviews of all the Bond movies up to A View to a Kill. And he wrote here, okay, the third and best of the James Bond films starring Sean Connery. It has two diabolical villains, gold-mad Auric Goldfinger, Gert Fröbe, and his invincible henchman, Oddjob, Harold Sakata, who wears a blade-rimmed bowler, and two sexy women, both of whom work for Goldfinger for Connery to seduce, blonde Jill Masterson, Shirley Eaton, who dies when Fröbe covers her with gold paint, and brunette Pussy Galore, Honor Blackman, a lesbian pilot who falls for Bond's charms. There's lots of humor, gimmicks. Bond uses his Aston Martin's passenger ejection seat to get rid of one of the villains. Excitement. Captured Bond watches a laser beam rip through the table he lies on, nearly zapping his crotch. An amusing yet tense golf contest between Bond and Goldfinger. Thrilling fights to the death between Bond and Oddjob and Bond and Goldfinger. And a fascinating central crime. Goldfinger wants to destroy all the gold in Fort Knox to both ruin America's economy and greatly increase the value of his own gold. Guy Hamilton directed the fast-paced film. It was his debut in the Bond series, most enjoyable, but too bad Eaton's part isn't longer and that Fröbe's Goldfinger, a heavy but nimble intellectual in the Sidney Greenstreet tradition, never appeared in another Bond film. Shirley Bassey had a big hit with the title song.
I'd say you pretty much summed it up because it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's like my favorite Bond film, but it probably falls in the third best, I guess. A lot of people would say From Russia with Love's their favorite.
Well, we did have some things to say about, but this is the only Bond film of which you're a part of the podcast, so obviously it's your favorite Connery Bond film, right?
And this is my favorite Connery film. I owe that one to my dad because this was the first, well, I'm going to lie, this was not the first James Bond movie I ever saw, but it was the first one I ever saw on home video because my dad recorded it off TBS back in the 80s.
Oh, wow. You mean WTBS, right?
Yeah, WTBS back
the
in
old
the 80s.
WTBS days.
Actually, wouldn't it have been around the time like they switched over and calling themselves Superstation? Because I remember the rights. I remember they got the rights and they started it like in 1990 was when they started showing them.
I do know when I had TBS in '84, when we had cable in Tennessee, they did call it a Superstation, but it was still known as WTBS. Like
at the time it was WTBS.
Yeah, WGN was also a Superstation.
I just remember, it could have been the 80s, it could have been the 90s. I just remember all the Bond movies were always on TBS, no matter what time of day. It was like
starting
watching
in 90. Starting in 90 and going, I think they had a 10
Yeah,
year
you got to
deal.
remember that Froelich is younger than us, so.
That's right.
For us, it was ABC.
ABC airings up until 1990. Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw The Living Daylights and License to Kill in the theater because my parents took me to see those two, and then I remember seeing Goldfinger on TBS along with like all the other Bond movies.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And not to tease anything too much, but Mr. Lawler and I were discussing to do a special show on the sort of the broadcasts, the different kind of broadcast, what channels they were on,
the various home media,
home media versions too.
But I do remember it was always Channel 7 because I think we had a Betamax recording of Octopussy. I remember we had one.
Octopussy is what I remember from HBO. Octopussy and A View to a Kill.
Yeah, but I remember it was ABC Channel 7 in Chicago when they first broadcast Octopussy. My dad recorded it on Betamax.
So I really, I do enjoy this movie, and I say it has vastly improved upon subsequent viewings. It was better for me than From Russia with Love.
I would say this same for me.
This is probably my favorite Connery one as well. It has the moments in it that I think of as iconic, that when I think of the Connery James Bond days, this is definitely the one that I think of.
The only thing I love about this movie is the frickin' Aston Martin, man.
Yes, this is the introduction of the Aston Martin. We introduce, in the first movie, he gets his Walther PPK. In the third movie, he gets his Aston Martin, and it's also kind of like a Batmobile kind of a thing with different buttons that you can press.
And then Q's like has a much more pronounced role in this movie than he did in From Russia with Love.
And he's already, though, Anderson, I have to point out, he is already showing signs of being annoyed by 007
Yes,
here.
and this is something, and I want to kind of talk about sort of, it's this weird sort of combination of the creation of what you think James Bond is mostly Terrence Young, but a good chunk of it is Guy Hamilton.
Yeah.
Guy Hamilton puts the final pieces on as to what you expect, because Guy Hamilton, and I noticed this in Connery's performance. In this one, in the first two, Terrence Young, he's
Serious.
ruthless. He's serious. He's ruthless. He comes in here, he's got this twinkle in his eye that he also has in Diamonds Are Forever, which is, that he looks bored in You Only Live Twice. But in Diamonds Are Forever, also a Guy Hamilton film, he has that twinkle.
Don't know if I disagree with you on that, because but You Only Live Twice, I think, is my favorite Connery film.
No, well, when I watch it again,
that's to be debated. I'm sorry.
I gotta go with that because I really like the set in You Only Live Twice.
No,
It's
dude,
fantastic.
You like Dr. Evil. You like Dr. Evil. I mean,
well, Donald Pleasance.
Dr. Evil.
$1 million, and I put my finger up to my lips to do that.
Random Task.
Yeah, and Random Task is obviously a parody of Oddjob. So, but here we do have a couple of things here. Connery is still brutal. He gets into the situation. There's a woman in a bathtub. He picks her up, uses her as a human shield when he sees an assassin.
That woman is. I think she's playing a different character. She was in. She was in From Russia with Love. She was Karen Bay's woman that was begging him to come to bed.
Oh, really? Oh, same girl?
Same woman.
Good eye. I didn't notice that.
I noticed. Yeah, same woman, probably different character, but yeah, same woman.
Did she die in that explosion? Do we remember?
Probably.
Now here's a dumb question. Was this the first appearance of Felix? I can't remember.
No.
Felix was first. He was Jack Lord in Dr. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
he looks so
guy.
different. It's a different actor. He just looks so different.
Yeah, because
He's
the
a
only
much
thing I know
different
is like Felix was played by a different actor in every movie, with the exception of Live and Let Die and License to Kill. It was the same actor.
Right, David Hedison, yes.
Also,
The
he was the Fly.
The
He was
original
the Fly in The Fly.
Oh, yeah,
and he
'cause
was in Voyage of the Bottom of the Sea.
So, like I said, he's literally the only actor, not counting the Craig movies, of course, but out of the original Bond movies up until Brosnan, he's the only character to portray Felix Leiter 2 times. No,
Actually,
everyone else did it once, I thought.
At the beginning, Felix moment when he meets Felix, they actually talks about something happened in Jamaica. It's actually he does do
something happened that caused him to get a little pudgier and get white hair.
Nice
apparently.
callback.
Yes.
So that scene that you're talking about with the girl in the bathtub, I thought that was really cool, though, that he sees the reflection of the person attacking in her eyes. Is that actually? Does anyone know if that's possible to see the reflection of a full person?
It's a special.
You have to have really good vision, I think.
And this again, this is the filmmakers, adding flair to the material, making something funny and interesting, in the editing style of Peter Hunt and that whole thing.
And he, once again, the assassin is hoisted by his own petard, you might say, by being thrown into a bathtub and electroshocked.
And then the great line, shocking, positively shocking.
He's trying really hard to be Roger Moore in this movie with the puns, but they.
It's pre-Roger Moore.
Yeah,
well,
what are you
it's
talking about?
pre-Roger, but the thing is, this is Moore's gift. He has the ability to do a pun, which, as we talk about in a later Bond movie that we will be talking about later, he does get off a few really good puns, and that's sort of like his skill.
Although I noticed something on the Blu-ray, and you may notice, you may not notice, but like the newer movies, the newer discs, they have like a remixed into sort of 5.1.
Yeah, you see, I'm a purist. When I watched Goldfinger, I went straight for the mono.
Well, good, because you know what, you watched it properly, and I'll tell you why. Right before it goes into Goldfinger, and he closes the door after he says "shocking," you hear the door close, and then it goes to the music. It goes, ding. Whereas on the on the new one, on the surround sound, they messed up with the mix. You don't hear the door close before it goes into Goldfinger. I noticed this. I went back then I went to the mono. I'm like, oh, they put it in there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. As much as I love Blu-ray, it's a great format. You need to have the original audio mix because I
really
don't
like the. It is clearer, and it does create a very good, especially like the later ones that actually were mixed in stereo. I mean, watching on Her Majesty's Secret Service and full surround sound, you can't top that.
So then after this really cool opening sequence, then we go into leading up into the theme song. This is probably one of the more iconic theme songs, and Dave loves to sing it.
The first where somebody actually sings it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Shirley Bassey, is that how you say her name?
Shirley Bassey, but technically Matt Monroe did sing "From Russia with Love," but he did it
at the end. But this is
From Russia with Love.
Right.
Yeah.
One other question: was this the first Maurice Binder movie?
No.
Or was that Thunderball was the first one? Damn.
No, the first Maurice Bender was the first one. Then
Maurice Binder
Robert
had the titles for the first one. I thought he didn't.
He did, and then Robert Brownjohn did 2 of them, and then he came back for pretty much all the rest of them.
Yeah, but it's like it doesn't really start becoming like main good opening titles until you hit Thunderball.
That's true,
I
but
mean, I remember. I mean, you got the theme song with Goldfinger because it's an iconic. Theme
Wait,
song.
no.
Right.
We had like naked women dancing around covered in gold faces. We get a little bit of Connery in the titles.
and they show
it's fairly intricate for
Yeah, so
1964.
this is probably the first real opening title sequence.
They show various scenes from the film, except it's like all from this film, except there's like one shot of from Russia with Love with like the helicopter crashing, and it just doesn't fit. It's maybe they just ran out of material to put in.
Nerd alert!
I'm just trying to
your
speak
Bond
for my
nerd
dad.
moment
I'm
there.
trying to speak for my dad here because like Bond, he ingrained Bond into me. So like this was, like I said, my Goldfinger. It was my dad's favorite Bond movie. It was his favorite theme song. I remember my parents collected a lot of vinyl. He had like 2 Goldfinger records that he used to play like all the time.
Okay, so then the movie proper starts, and we see the villain playing. He's playing a game. He's playing cards.
He's cheating.
He's cheating at cards.
Cheating at cards.
Yeah, he's playing rummy. He's cheating.
Bond
Gert
is
Fröbe.
spying on him. Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
Now, I brought this up to you. I don't know if I brought it up to others. Gert Fröbe, if you take away his German accent, does he not look like a character that was designed by Mike Judge for King of the Hill or something? He looks like he looks like he could be a redneck.
He looks like William Fontaine Delacroix d'Autrive.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I said.
That's
Bill
what Bronwyn
Daughtry,
said.
yeah.
Bronwyn said that too. He looks like a Dautrive. And also, I mean, like the thing, you know, you have your rednecks. You have Joe Don Baker, who was Mitchell in 2 Bond movies.
Mm-hmm.
But you got this guy. You take away his German accent, and you give him like a, what's that old boy doing over there? Kind of accent.
Yeah, he looks very sort of J.W. Culpepper from Live and Let Die. And,
yeah. And
Man with
the Man with the
Golden
Golden Gun.
Man with the Golden Gun, yeah, a cameo. Although I want to say this, and I'm sure Froelich knows this. This actor, his voice was dubbed. Like
Oh, dude, that was a given. That was a given.
That had to have been
just too German. They just couldn't make it work, so they had a guy come in and do like an English with a German accent.
I mean, the thing is, when you put together what his plan is, and then you put the plan with the face and the way he behaves, he seems like he's a special needs kind of a person. He looks like someone who I think the German accent really does wonders for him because he just doesn't seem like he's capable of doing much. Like he needs a lot of help in this world.
Right.
Do his dirty work for him.
So this is Goldfinger. What's his first name? What's this guy's first name? How do you say it?
Goldfinger.
Auric.
Auric. So A-U, right? As in the chemical.
Goldfinger.
Right, no, but AU is the what's the word I'm looking for? The chemical symbol for gold. Element gold. Yeah, there we go.
The element of gold is AU. How about that?
As he said, it sounds like a nail varnish.
Another thing I really like about this movie, it's like even though it's like the first popular one, they don't talk about Spectre or Smersh in this
Good
movie.
point.
Spectre or Smersh. This is one of the first.
This is like a completely independent guy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like that's why it's so cool because it doesn't tie into Dr. No and it doesn't tie into From Russia with Love. Like unlike the other 2 movies after this, because both of those movies tie in with Spectre and Smersh.
Yeah, there are no initial grudges to be had here. It's just a problem that they've forced upon James Bond by way of MI6.
And he pisses him off, right? James Bond pisses him off right away, pretty much. He
Because,
launches right into
cheating. He was cheating in golf on top of Goldfinger's cheating.
That's a great scene, but I love it. It's like, oh, you're playing something like, oh, this is a 7. You play a 1. That's the game and the match.
Yeah.
But before that, we have this clandestine rendezvous between James Bond and Jill Masterson.
Now,
right.
Can we say that Connery's probably the only man that can pull off the blue onesie?
He is wearing a onesie, yes, but it's a fashion statement back in the early '60s.
He's got nice legs.
And that's when he makes his Beatles crack, right? He says, you listen to the Beatles, you need earmuffs.
Was that? Oh, I didn't hear him say
that's
that.
like
Funny.
listening
So
to
you
the
have to
Beatles.
listen
That's
to
like
them.
listening to the Beatles with earmuffs.
Without
Yeah.
any fuss. Yes.
Yeah, you're right. He's the only guy you could pull that
So
off.
he's like the Greatest Generation, and the Greatest Generation doesn't really dig the Beatles or anything like that. But then Paul McCartney would come in later, and George Martin too, to do the music for
That's
Live and
true.
Let Die.
So he picks up Goldfinger's girlfriend.
Yeah, and they have a little thing, and then he gets knocked out looking for champagne because it has to be served at 38 degrees Celsius or something like that. I forgot what it was. And then he comes to, and she's completely covered in gold.
Because I love gold.
He loves gold.
Whenever
As
I
he
saw
says-
this on TV when I was in the 80s, that completely freaked me out. That actually really frightened me.
It's psychotic.
Yeah.
It's
Well, when he-
psychotic to paint people in gold.
Yeah.
He calls up Felix and he says, "The girl's dead." And he says, "Dink?" "No, Masterson. Jill Masterson. She's covered in paint. Gold paint."
And there she is right now. I'm looking at a picture of her, and they were showing that what they did not paint her body. They gave her a little tiny little bikini.
Patch. Yeah, patch.
And that's what he explains. It's like there needs to be a patch there or your whole body suffocates.
Yeah, and they kind of proved it on. Well, they didn't exactly prove it on MythBusters. They did an experiment where they tried to paint Jamie and Adam in gold. Adam was fine, but Jamie started having convulsions and a weird anxiety attack or something. So they kind of half proved that it was possible that you could kill somebody by covering them in gold paint.
Or you can at least really mess with their health.
You can mess with their health.
But you could die of embarrassment.
Right.
Yeah.
That.
There is that.
A lot of people seem to love Pussy Galore. Believe it or not, I'm not a big fan of her character. I mean, I give credit to Honor Blackman. She does the role justice. It's just she's not your typical Bond girl to me.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
And she's
I'm a younger generation, so I'm a little different.
I liked her because I think she's a really good actress. That's really something you need for this character. The weird, I don't know, alternative lifestyle angle of her character was more explicitly stated in the book. She just says, like you said
your
last
charms
time,
work on me, Mr. Bond.
Well,
I'm immune. I'm immune.
I mean,
Well,
she's the first of two Bond girls to come from the Avengers, actually, the old Avengers TV show, because it'd be her, and then she was on that show, and then she left, and then Diana Rigg came on, and then she would be in a movie like let's see, how many years later? 5 years later.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right. They said they
But
wanted
she was
her.
also Honor Blackman was also in The Saint. She was on an episode of The Saint with Roger Moore.
I didn't
How
know
about that? Well, The Saint had like every British actor under the sun working on that show at some point.
Yeah, they said they wanted her to be in this movie to use her judo skills that she used in the Avengers.
She knows
Judo chop.
judo chop.
And as Dave pointed out, she's a bit more of a woman than a girl. Like most of the
she's
Bond
a
girls are
woman.
She's
girly.
not like, you know,
she's a
That's a
woman.
broad.
Do the
That's a
voice.
broad. That's what that is.
What voice?
The voice where
Of the previous movie?
no, where you go, James.
Yeah, that's from Russia with Love. That's the wrong movie.
Yeah, but you have to do the voice.
Yes, yes. Well, she's not irritating. She doesn't go
James,
James.
But she's also a little older than Connery, actually, by about 3 years. She's
Oh
like
yeah,
Oh, that's interesting.
She's got some crow's feet going on. You can
You
tell.
think?
37, which in today's years would be about 50.
I mean, she's so you know what it is? The character is so iconic because of her name, man. That's the only reason.
Only
Pussy
bested by
Galore.
a
And
lot
they
of
keep
attorneys.
calling her that. I mean, they call her that like it's her first name. So, what's up, Pussy? What are we having for dinner tonight,
Or
Pussy?
then he goes, Pushy.
Pusher.
Yeah, his little list.
Porsche.
Yeah.
I guess where do we move on after the golf tournament? We have the golf. She's dead.
And the
right?
introduction of Oddjob's skill with the hat
Well,
is
wait a minute,
after
with
the
the damn
golf
When he comes-
tournament.
When he comes by with that piece of gold, that chunk of gold, there's no way
Nazi
he
gold,
got that.
right?
It's that he throws it on the green, and I'm like, first of all, where did he put that thing? Because that thing probably weighs like 50 pounds.
Ha, that's a good
He
point.
secreted it away in a special place. But it was, I mean, it's like Nazi gold. So, and this is like one of, I guess, Goldfinger's peccadillos, if you will, is his obsession with different kinds of gold. So he's got this
And he already
bar of
knows it's
Nazi
him.
gold.
He already knows it's him. He's kind of giving him the eye and looking at him like, what?
Yeah, they're total enemy. They know.
Yeah.
He knows. I mean, even though if you turn down the sound, Gert Fröbe looks like a special needs kid, as we talked about. You know. So he arranges this deal with these rich guys who own a lot of gold. It's like a meeting of the white people's convention, and he gives them this gold as bait to lure Goldfinger into a golf game, and then they have the golf game and everything.
Right, and Oddjob beheading a marble statue.
Meanwhile,
Showing off.
James gets involved with somebody who is really not related to the story, but is the sister of Jill Masterson, Tilly, who's on her own vengeance campaign and nearly kills James Bond.
The only part of the movie I was like, unnecessary character. I felt like it was just sort of this weird thing where she's trying to kill him, and then she just sort of shows up.
If Tilly is unnecessary, then Honey Rider was unnecessary in Doctor No, but she was absolutely necessary to be there.
Yeah, for some reason. If you cut her little Tilly's story out for time, you could have done that, and it wouldn't have affected the plot.
Well, she comes in to like she doesn't sleep. He doesn't sleep with her. She doesn't give him any vital piece of information, and then she's out.
She's there and she dies.
Yeah,
she's just someone for him to worry about when he's.
For some reason, Bronwyn thought she was beheaded for a minute because he threw his hat at her.
I thought her head came off.
She should have been.
No, and her head is gone. Thank you.
I say that comes to my other point. Like one of my kind of dislikes about this movie: too many girls, too many girls to keep count of. Too many.
Well, what do we got? First we got Jill. We have Tilly, but he doesn't do anything with her. But then we got Honor Blackman.
And then the girl at the beginning. So that's 4.
Oh, there was a girl at the beginning.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Oh, right, the girl in the bathtub
girl.
Yeah.
Was he with her?
Not to mention Dink.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Dink. Oh, just right.
So, but the standard formula of James Bond is that he gets to sleep with at least minimum 2 women in every movie, right?
Right. It's always 2.
Unfortunately, I think with Octopussy there might have been. No, it wasn't Octopussy. It was Never Say Never Again, where he did 3 women just to kind of compete with Roger Moore.
That doesn't count. I know you're doing it for the podcast, but
we're doing it for the podcast. It is James Bond.
It doesn't count. It's non-Eon.
It's Kevin McClory, who's kind of like the unofficial kind of co-creator of the James Bond for the movies.
The thorn in
we all know.
He was the thorn in their side, is what he was.
He's like, I've got half rights.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, old chap. I have half rights to this. So we get to the whole assassination section of the movie where she's got the gun and she tries to kill him. Of course, she's dead. She gets killed with the bowler by random task.
Yep.
Random task. And he's got a shoe.
You know, as much as we didn't want to do Austin Powers crap, we kind of had to in this.
You can't. Well,
you have to.
We'll do the same with You Only Live Twice when we get to Dr. Evil / Blofeld.
So yeah, there's this whole big action chase sequence after Tilly dies, and the thing that cracks me up about this is when they're driving around in the dark, they're the woman with the old lady who comes out with a gun and is shooting at it. That is so random.
They used that in the trailer. I remember watching the trailer. They whipped that.
That looks. I feel like I've seen that before, like an old woman with a machine gun trying to shoot somebody down.
Probably ripped it off from this.
Is that Goldfinger's grandma or ma?
They don't identify her.
Lady at the it's some old lady. Although this is the first use of the ejector seat.
Oh yes.
And you just see this far shot of.
No, but I feel like
it was a great effect, though. I enjoyed how they did.
It looks like something. It looks like something that would have been seen in Top Secret by the Zucker brothers and Jim Abrahams, or possibly That's Armageddon from the Kentucky Fried Movie. It just looks like something.
Of course,
the ejector
George
seat?
Lazenby. Nice try there, Lawler.
George Lazenby is in the movie. And it's so out of nowhere, that little cameo that he does in That's Armageddon, where he's repeating the dialogue over and over again with the nurse as things are crashing down around them. It's fantastic.
Leave her. Come back to Montana with me.
I can no sooner run away from her than myself.
I'm not asking you to run. I'm asking you to face reality.
Whose reality? Yours or mine?
My reality and yours, that's whose.
What are you saying?
Leave her. Come back to Montana with me.
I can no more run away from her than I can run away from myself.
I'm not asking you to run. I'm asking you to face reality.
Whose reality? Yours or mine?
My reality and yours, that's whose.
What are you saying?
Wonderful.
You just had to bring that up.
George Lazenby is a connection.
I know.
He is a Bond. No matter how hard people try to not want to bring that up.
That's my way.
He is a James Bond.
That's my evolving top 2 there. Don't you go stepping on.
And I get to break out my George Lazenby accent. This is the way he talks.
Good morning.
It's all right. She's just resting. We have all the time in the world.
So despite the valiant efforts of James Bond to escape, he does end up getting picked up by Goldfinger's men and tied down in a compromising position.
Which is one of the most iconic scenes in the history of cinema.
That's
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, and you can tell on the Blu-ray, like as much as they tried to restore the whole thing, that whole thing was done with like optical printers.
Oh
and
yeah, it was early optics, matte paintings.
So it looks as good as they can get it, but it looks like when they cut back and forth between like the non-special effects and the special effects shot, all the special effects
rough. Those scenes are
rough. They look kind of.
Are you starting to recognize Ken Adams' production design style? The one thing I really noticed about this is that he really likes slanted roofs. He likes beams in the ceilings. Mm-hmm. He likes to pour in natural daylight through skylights and have weird, buttons and knobs and computers running around everywhere. He gets bigger and bigger with each movie, and this movie gets bigger than Dr. No.
I could swear that set was repurposed and reused later on in the film, like the room with the laser, because it looks similar-ish to...
It's quite possible,
his place in Kentucky. It looks kind of the same. Like the floors look the same. Like they probably reused.
Or maybe this is just the way Goldfinger likes things designed. I have a feeling that he has an interior decorator, and his interior decorator, he's always telling, "I want slanted roofs. I want skylights. I want."
He has so much money, he can afford to pay Ken Adam to come and design his own place.
Well, you have. I mean, when you're talking Dr. No in 1962 had a $1 million budget. This has a $3 million budget. Mm-hmm. The budgets go up exponentially. You had a $2 million budget from Russian with Love, but that might have been due to other things because it was a train mainly in that, right? And the catacombs too.
Well, then you got to pay Robert Shaw.
You have to pay Robert Shaw.
Because Robert Shaw, he was still a name back in those days. He was a big name back in the 60s. So I guarantee.
Could he have been a bigger name than Sean Connery though? I don't know.
I don't think he was a bigger name than Sean Connery, but he was still a name, and he cost money.
I think the guy that played Karen Bay, I think he made $100,000, and I think that Sean Connery was only making $50,000 a movie. That's part of why he was.
Yeah,
so
Sean Connery kind of got screwed in his early contract.
He was making less than like people that were coming in because they were more established actors.
And you see, and unfortunately in Hollywood, I mean, this can also happen in the music business. It happens to everybody. One of the best examples I cite is the band Quiet Riot. How they were like the pioneers of hair metal, but yet when you looked at every other hair metal band, they got a better deal than Quiet Riot ever got.
So you're saying like the innovators made less than the people who exploited it.
Quiet Riot was the innovator of hair metal. They were I'm not going to say the innovator, but they were the first band to really break out. But like you looked at the record deal they got, it was terrible. One thing I don't know if you guys have discussed already, like how much of this was United Artists and how much of this was Eon?
I'll leave that to Anderson.
Let's see now. If I'm here, I'm gonna try to go through my computer banks here in my head. The original deal was Broccoli Saltzman owned half, United Artists owned half.
Okay, so there you go. So
now, but I can't remember later when we get to Spy Who Loved Me. That's just a Broccoli production because Saltzman could not.
Saltzman was gone after Man with the Golden Gun.
Yes, because he couldn't get his own personal.
All right. Well, okay. Just a follow-up question: who put up the money?
I think it had to have been both
okay,
United Artists and Broccoli and Saltzman.
Because both Broccoli and Saltzman were producers of other things before that, so they probably had a few bucks that they could put in.
Right. Okay.
And then they almost lost their lunch on Chitty Chitty Bang Bang X amount of years later.
That's true.
Oh, can we get back to the?
Sorry.
That was also Ian Fleming. Can we talk about the expensive working model that Goldfinger puts up as a representation of Fort Knox? Okay, the plan and everything, and then Connery doing his little sneaky thing with the guard, and the guard being the stupidest guard in the world, apparently.
That scene though, dude. That scene. What the hell is up with that scene? That is so stupid.
How he just sort of disappears under the. Yes. Where am I going? Am I going over here?
Like, really, you know what though? There's a guard that dumb out there.
We should probably thank John Barry because the John Barry music kind of sells every stupid thing that happens in this movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
His score is so good and so fun and so jazzy. Through the whole thing, and the sexy sax, just the whole time. Bing.
There's again with the musical stings. He has this really nice working model. He brings in all these guys. These guys don't want to be a part of this deal, which is like basically they put up their money.
Oh no, they all want to be a part of it. There's one guy who didn't want to be a part of it.
One guy didn't want to be a part of it.
One guy.
But then
I'll take my money and go. All right, you can go.
Okay, here's what I've been going back. I'll be like, if I don't get a plot point in my head, because I usually just sort of let these wash over me, but since I'm doing a podcast, I want to pay attention to the plot as much of it as there is.
The plot cast.
It seems like the plot is, he takes their money, okay, with the express intention of gassing them. Now, he explains that the gas is harmless, but then you find out later, no, the gas isn't harmless. The gas killed them. So he basically took their money so that he could then, like, he already had all of his gold. He didn't really need their extra 10 million probably to hold on to. So he basically, maybe it was just to have fun of like, take their money. And then I realized maybe
take
it was
their money and kill them. Why do you have to give their money back?
That's
like,
true.
They're
and
not
also,
people who are going to be missed.
That gets rid of the competition, because then if he takes their gold and then he nukes the gold, he'd be the only one with gold. If he takes all of his competition's gold, kills them, and then he nukes all like the gold in Fort Knox, then he has all of it. Like, he has no competition. They can't make money off of it either.
That's a great plan.
It is. If it
the world would just use something else for currency, be like, well, he's got all the gold.
You know, his plan is a little bit. It's kind of crazy. It reminds me of Christopher Walken in A View to a Kill, where the idea is to drown Silicon Valley so that he can have a corner on the market with his own computer technology.
I just thought of a really good point, like right off the top of my head. Okay, this goes back to Die Hard with a Vengeance. So Goldfinger wants to knock off Fort Knox. What about the Federal Reserve?
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that too. He seems to labor under the false assumption that the world's gold supply, or at least the nation's, would be in one place like Fort Knox.
Maybe it was at the time. I mean, they talk about, because remember, they're talking about the gold standard. There is no more gold standard now. Hasn't been many years. The paper is just backed up by more paper, and we
it's possible. It'd be like, I mean, like, you know, where Jeremy Irons says Fort Knox, it's for tourists. You know,
like there's more gold in there than your Fort Knox.
Things were different then, maybe.
I know, but I mean, it just got those wheels turned in my head. It's like, was there a Federal Reserve back in 1965? It's like, I do not know. Like, I do not know this.
So the plan is to get Pussy Galore and her flying circus, which is a bunch of women, of course, all flying airplanes.
All have very pointed breasts, I've noticed.
Pointy.
And blonde hair. They're a Barbie.
Put an eye out with those things.
But this is the 60s. It was all about pointed boobs in the 60s.
Torpedo.
Yeah, torpedo bras.
Torpedo bras, yes.
Pilot Barbie.
And so the plan is for her to get up there in her planes and to drop this gas onto all these soldiers who are guarding Fort Knox. They're knocked out. But before that, you have an impediment known as Sean Connery, who somehow manages to. Now, the thing about this is you were calling this.
I wasn't calling it anything. I said it's a little rapey because she doesn't seem like she's that interested in him.
It's totally rapey. It's totally rapey.
See, they agree with me.
But my question is now it's 3 against 1. If it's so rapey, why does she then go along with it? Why does she grab him? Why do they start making out?
It's James Bond, and that's what happened. James Bond is rape. It's Ian Fleming, who was a terrible person. He was racist. He was sexist. He didn't care. So
I don't know anything about the man personally, but how would you compare this to say, like the scene where in Blade Runner where Harrison Ford is putting himself all over Sean Young, I should say.
Sean Young and Sean Connery, yes. And the thing in this movie, Sean Connery, I mean, there is a certain, I mean, look, there's a certain kind of women that if you get kind of rapey on them, they enjoy it. That's not the kind of woman I like, but there are some women that just want you to go full Bond Connery on them, and then they're just.
Do you have any thoughts about that, honey?
Doesn't make any. I mean, since she's sort of hinted around that she's not interested in men, it doesn't really make any sense.
Connery. He gets what he wants.
Maybe in a book she isn't, but maybe in a movie.
I think in the book it's the same way. He just gets rapey and then she caves. It's the way it is.
All right.
I think I'm with Anderson. She just caves.
But then, I mean, it isn't so much that she was personally attacked or assaulted in some way, because she winds up switching the gas canisters.
Yeah.
And instead, I sort of feel as though what actually happened was a performance by the Army, because I think they knew that, here comes the fake gas, let's pretend. So it didn't really knock them out, because they acted as though,
they acted dead. It's like they pretended to be dead.
Especially how fast they dropped. There wasn't like a gradual, I'm feeling gas. They all just went flop.
Yeah,
flop.
They just went, bow, we're on the ground. Like no gasping for breath, no choking, just instant down.
And then Connery gets in, disarms the bomb, gets into a little bit of fisticuffs with Oddjob.
The bomb, you mean that Fisher-Price bomb?
The Fisher-Price bomb.
And notice that Goldfinger, he goes in, he's already ready for when this goes to hell. because at the very end when he knows
it's almost like he
help,
sort of knew.
he has his army.
Well,
out
he
there
had
ready to go.
he had a contingency plan just in case it all went to hell, and it did. So he was on the plane because you saw he like took his clothes off and he was basically dressed up like an army general or something like that.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
Sure,
that's
he blends right in.
and that is the completion of the successful James Bond formula that we would see for every movie after this, which would be
it repeated in every movie.
an epilogue involving the bad guy or some kind of problem that James Bond has to deal with. You think that the movie's over. He's in the airplane. He's going to go have dinner with the president, apparently. And it turns out that Goldfinger is on the plane with him.
I will say this because I'm not going to be in on the episode. Okay, so that formula was set. My favorite movie where they ever did that whole like epilogue was Man with the Golden Gun with Hervé Villechaize.
Yes. Oh, yes. With the
that was
With Tattoo. I forgot Tattoo's in there.
that was my all-time favorite bit because he just shoves him in the suitcase or shoves him like in the thing, and he just puts him on the frickin' the flagpole. Like that's just one of my absolute favorite bookend scenes of any Bond film.
You would feel bad for Hervé Villechaize, but then right after that he got Fantasy Island, and then
right after that. So.
He'll be fine.
I didn't want to get off topic. We were talking about epilogues and stuff like that. I'm like, well, I'm not going to be in on Man with the Golden Gun, but I might as well say, hey, that's my favorite epilogue. So
then, like the rest of the epilogue, the other part of the epilogue, of course, is that he's all kissy with the girl after they get rid of the villain,
and she'll be fine.
He gets sucked out of the airlock, kind of like, or not the airlock, but the window. And they kind of mention, and by the way, that plane, every time they cut to the plane in the air, you could see like the string kind of hanging it, you know?
Yeah, you could. I mean, it's the 60s. What do you expect?
I got to say,
I did not see a string.
When they land...
I was completely suspended by my disbelief.
Oh, well, good for you. When when he's down there and they're getting all kissy...
It's like you. When you saw Rise of Skywalker, I did not cry once in this movie.
I
did not see a string.
But they when they're down there and they're being all kissy at the very end, I noticed. I think that's the exact same park in From Russia with Love when he's there with his side piece. Because I noticed it's like the same sort of grassy area. There's a little bit.
Oh, they dropped
lake,
into that same area.
A little bit of a lake area. I think it's called Black Park. It's like right behind Pinewood Studios or something.
I mean, as far as the Connery ones go, this is the best Connery Bond that he ever did. It set the standard for all future James Bond movies, and it actually set the standard for a lot of spy and espionage movies after this. Like, when you think of Bond, Goldfinger is the gold standard, pun intended.
Of the Connerys that I've watched so far, this is the third Connery I've watched so far for the show, and it is now my favorite. I was going in because the last time I watched it, for some reason I was underwhelmed. But then I watched it again, and I'm like, now I kind of get it. So it's just ahead of Dr. No, and then it'd be this Dr. No, and then From Russia with Love. But again, these are all excellent films. But we're trying to make a list here, so I would make that the top Connery, and it's probably going to be my favorite Connery of the group, unless because what do we have left? We have Thunderball. We have You Only Live Twice.
And
we
Diamonds Are Forever.
And I'm going to say that this is better than
Diamonds Are Forever.
As big as and awesome as Thunderball is, it's like that's when you start to see the decrease.
Yeah, because they went for more special effects in Thunderball than they did story. Even I know that, so it's kind of like,
that's a movie you can take a nap for about 20 minutes and not miss anything in the middle.
Goldfinger it came out at the right time. It had the right amount of magic in the bottle. They nailed it. They got it right. And then it just sucks that the other Connery films couldn't live up to it. I mean, they weren't bad movies by any means, but they couldn't live up to it.
Yeah, and I want to say, like, if as we're watching, and then you'll probably listen to the other shows that you're not a part of, I would say when we go back to Thunderball, I'm going to make sort of a mental note to notice Connery's performance in this and see if he kind of goes back to more sort of his sort of rough and tumble. Because in this, again, he's got the twinkle in the eye, even though he does get rough.
And Diamonds Are Forever, he goes full balls out mayhem Bond in that movie.
Yeah, he's got the twinkle in the eye in that one too. There's like he's having fun, at least in that one, because he's getting paid.
Yeah.
He's got that. I'm getting paid a lot of money for this.
I will say this though, since I'm not gonna be in any other Connery episodes, this is my favorite Connery movie. This is my third favorite James Bond film.
Yeah, this is my favorite. I'm with Froelich. This is my favorite Connery one, and this is the one that I think of as like the classic one. My favorite iconic moments of the '60s Bond years are in this one. So nothing really new to add. How about you, David Lawler?
David Lawler has his list here, and he's going to pop it up here just for you guys. I didn't enjoy it as much as the rest of you. Well, the first time I didn't enjoy it as much, but watching it again, I do enjoy it. When taking into context all the Bond films, I moved it up a couple of spaces. I would say, I don't know if it winds up. Where does it wind up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ooh.
So
no, 11. No, I'm sorry. Oh my God, you guys aren't gonna like me. You guys are not gonna like me. I like Die Another Day more than this movie.
Oh, what the hell?
They're protesting. I don't blame them.
They're totally protesting. No, I have this. Yeah, I mean the thing about it.
I will defend Die Another Day, but you're out of your damn mind.
I really enjoyed the hell out of Die Another Day. I just like Pierce Brosnan. I like him. I think he's wonderful.
There's a reason I didn't want to be on the Die Another Day episode.
I suppose.
I'm sorry.
But I would say again, it's still 3 stars. Everything but my top 5 gets 3 stars except for the final few of the movies, starting with A View to Spectre. But everything down there. But everything is. I mean, this is the you know how we talk about the minimum standard of entertainment for things. It's still it's a wonderful movie. I enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch, and part of the whole thing with the Bond thing for me is that each movie represents a kind of different era of time, and it's like kind of like looking into some kind of, it's like a time traveling device in a way. And especially when we get around to talking about The Spy Who Loved Me, my God, that movie is very much a time capsule. So this movie is also that, and it was like I think my mother's favorite, as with most of the Connerys, and you'll find parents of our generation, our parents, preferred the Connery movies more. We were more of the Roger Moore types. And then you're kind of more of a Dalton guy, I would say, Fred.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because it's all about where you were when you were watching it.
That's where I'm the odd man out, because out of the 3 of you, I'm like the only pro Dalton guy.
Well, no, I would say
I'm a big fan of Dalton.
No, Bronwyn is definitely a Dalton.
I felt like it's such a wasted opportunity. He needed that third movie.
Yeah, but that was.
I agree,
dude. That was, you know as well as I do, that was because of rights issues and a bunch of other BS that had.
It was United Artists crap, is what it was.
Yeah, that was actually around that time. It was MGM and United Artists.
MGM, crap. Yeah.
Say at what, Dave?
That's the end.
That's the end. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back next time with.
We'll be talking about Thunderball.
We'll be talking about Thunderball, that's right.
And Froelich won't be here.
I won't be.
Froelich won't be.
Good night.
Good night. Hold on 1 second.
And I shall strike.
That's Armageddon.